I think the idea of a scholarship, the idea of a challenge, the idea of all those things are very, very good when used appropriately.
When would it be appropriate for people to potentially run a scholarship and a framework? And I guess how long before that stuff gets exhausted? Have you guys ever watched Harry Potter? So if you have as a listener, what we're doing today is we're talking about the metaphorical business sorting hat. So for all you Harry Potter nerds, share this with somebody. If you're not into Harry Potter and you're into something else, pretend that this is whatever that is. If you're into sports, the Eagles, whatever, I don't even know. I think that's a soccer team. So buckle up. It's going to be a good one. Steve's got a lot to say. He already prefaced this episode with, if I go on a rant, pull me out. And I said, I'm going to let it run. I'm actually going to put some fire on. I'm going to put some fuel on it. So for those that are listening and tuning in, we're wrapping up season 2 here, and all the best stuff has been saved for this. We have an amazing 16-part series. I forget how long it is, but the next several episodes are really around the things that you guys have asked for, which is how do we start to structure and make meaningful progress in our business? And it's such a multifaceted, so many different ways to go that Steve is going to lend a lot of his business expertise on clarification. So he's going to be definitely taking the lead for the next few podcasts. You definitely want to make sure that you're paying attention, because these are the meaningful things that we've seen across literally, I mean, I know of at least 4,000 business owners that went through, the mastery program, the boardroom stuff, and whatever else, like all the mistakes that we made in those previous programs. You've had your own handful of businesses. And so this is what we're talking about in the next several series, are all the mistakes that we've seen across all these small business owners, from the solopreneur to the people that hired too early and tried to scale a business, to even the guy that sold his car to pay for a $25,000 business coaching program that repeatedly failed him year after year. So all that to say, we're super glad that you're still here. Thanks for joining us at Beyond the Pump. Steve, what do we got as it relates to how to make fast cash?
So the podcast is all about the business of fitness and nutrition, right? Just step in there for a moment. And this is one of those important pieces where we talk that attention, that marketing, and getting somebody to a point of sale. And I'll start off by, when you give somebody some type of program for nutrition, some type of program for fitness, you don't tell them to do the same exact thing every single month for 18 straight months. There's reasons, because over time, your body adapts. You're going to get bored. You're not going to continue to get results. You probably need to do 3 or 4 different things and back and forths in order to achieve the I want to lose weight and I want to tone up outcome that a majority of people want. Well, business is very much the same, where if you do the exact same thing repeatedly, eventually it doesn't work. No matter what, the efficacy of something you're doing a second time is going to be less, especially when it comes to converting your leads into clients, because guess what? They've seen it already. And in all likelihood, the first time you run something, you are at a kind of pivotal moment where you have the biggest list, the biggest marketing opportunity for some new campaign that you put out there. So a couple companies that you guys might see, they always put a discount out there, right? And you go down this road and it's one of those things where they say last or best discount, this is going to be the best price ever. I was part of a company a year ago. We did a big launch and we gave away the course for what would be the best price ever at the time. Now, we did stack it with some bonuses and things, but the pricing was supposed to be the best ever. Well, I just checked today, and you can actually buy it for less right now than what it was positioned for at that point in time. Couple of things. I'm not against discounting, but I'm against discounting when it makes you sound like an asshole and a liar. And that's part of the problem when you go out there and you just discount continually. Eventually you mess up, like you fuck with somebody and it's like, oh, hey, they bought the thing. They thought they were getting a good deal. And then yet again, a good deal kind of happens again and they lose trust in you. And that's something that happens in the coaching industry all the time. As fitness and nutrition coaches, it's super easy to rely on a singular thing, in this example, a discount, and always do it. And at some point in time, you're going to start to lose trust with your potential clients. And that's the thing that's a negative that can happen. But appropriately used, a discount can get people across the line if they're ready to buy as well, right?
So you mentioned something there, Steve, before you go on for our listeners that obviously don't have your history and your knowledge. You mentioned something about discounts and stacking. I think it's a pretty good use case before we go down the rabbit hole of like when a discount's inappropriate. Like, what is the premise of a discount inside of consumer psychology, inside of marketing, inside of ultimately driving business? And how does that compare to something that you just mentioned earlier, which is stacking?
So, discount is exactly what it sounds like. You get a discount on whatever the listed retail price is, right? So, somebody comes in and they're ready to make a buying decision. That discount might
Mm-hmm.
very well push them over the edge for them to go ahead and say yes. A lot of times, you'll see like 10% off, 15% off. Usually that's not enough to make somebody motivated to make a decision to buy now. You start pushing 25, 30%, people are almost always going to have that thought process of, oh, this is a really good deal. I may never see this deal again. Let me go ahead and take advantage of this thing that I'm thinking of taking advantage of now, just because. Why not? I was away this past weekend with my family. There was this sculpture that I knew my wife would like. So I was like, hey, I'm going to go check it out in the store. I walk into the store. How much is it? Okay, cool. I go, are there any discounts? And the woman goes, yeah, 25%. I'm like, I'll take it. And if she said no discount, I probably wouldn't have bought it. But I asked, she goes, yeah, for anybody that asks, we just give them 25%. I felt like I won. Like I felt like I was getting something.
Yeah.
So, that whole joke on social media, girl math, I saved money by buying this thing. So I made the decision to buy it because I got that discount. Now, stacking would be different scenario. I see the sculpture, I want to buy it, and they go, no, there's no discount. But if you buy this today, we actually give you this other sculpture, this painting, this thing for free with it. So you go in and you're getting extra value for the same price. So again, you're perceived getting a deal, ideally a perception of the best deal you're ever going to get. So again, discounts, stacking, two very different ways to ultimately bolster your offer. And they're two ways that should be used when you're trying to sell people something because they are effective. But if you take your email list all the time and every other week, I have a January 19th sale and I have a January 31st sale and I have a Valentine's Day sale and a St. Patrick's Day sale and a June 30th sale and a July 4th sale, and every other week it's a sale. The only people that are going to take action on that sale is the new people to your list, which maybe you have a big enough funnel that you're getting enough new consumers in that works. And that's great. Most coaches I know are not bringing in hundreds and thousands of new leads between each time they want to go give a discount. If a person didn't purchase prior on a discount, they're not going to purchase now unless you've conditioned them that this discount every year is the best discount. Typically like a Black Friday, Cyber Monday type thing where, oh, we always
Mm-hmm.
do 40, 50% off, but this one's 60% off. Definitely going to wait till that one. Again, over the course of the year, you're making your money. But if you really need to make money in June and that person's waiting until November to buy, that doesn't help you. But they're waiting because you did that and you conditioned them to wait for it. So discounting and stacking, both useful tools. But my advice would be don't do it all the time. Do it at certain times when it's kind of well thought out. The premise that we were actually talking about on this before we got in was the idea of what's called a scholarship, a challenge. There's giveaways. There's a bunch of different kind of naming terminologies that people use for some of these different plays in the coaching industry, especially in our circles. The scholarship and the challenge are two very widely used words. So if you've ever done a scholarship or heard of the scholarship or challenge, hit that like button just so we know how many people actually have done this. But the general idea is you're going to say, hey, I'm giving away my thing, my services, my product for free. Give me your name and information, and I'm going to pick somebody. Tell me why, whatever the case may be. Who doesn't want something for free, especially if they want the thing? Like, yeah, if I'm going to buy it anyways, or I might buy it, or I might buy it on discount or with a bonus stack or something, but I could get it for free. Yeah, I'm going to put my name in. Like, who's ever played the lottery? Have you ever played the lottery, Andrew? Ever once in your life?
No, because that would require me following up.
You've seriously never played the lottery? Not once.
No, I'm not a
All
gambling
right.
man
All
in
right.
that sense. I'll move across the country with no job and figure it out, but I won't buy a lottery ticket. Different kinds of risk in the
Fair.
world.
Well, you understand the premise of buying a lottery ticket. Okay.
Yeah, the Hope Scholarship helped me pay for college for sure. Yeah, love
True.
it.
True. So you go, you buy your lottery ticket, and inside, your chances of winning are minuscule. It's like, and I don't know the exact numbers, but like on Powerball, there's like 55 different numbers. So literally to get the math of what your chances are, it's one times two times three times four times five times six, all the way up to 55. Whatever really big number that is, you have a one in that many chance of winning. So just to put that in perspective, 55 times 54 alone is a big number, let alone all the other numbers. But when we think through that, you go home and you sit there and you go, oh, the drawing's going to happen soon. And for just a little bit, you sit there and you go, if I win, I'm gonna. And you insert, pay my debt, buy this house, buy this yacht, do this vacation, invest in this thing, buy my parents or whatever. Like you start thinking through those things because we're all just a little bit hopeful as humans. Some more than others, Andrew. So it's okay. It's okay.
Skeptic. I'm a fucking
But
skeptic.
same thing with a scholarship. Hey, I'm going to give somebody away my coaching for free. Okay, cool. I'll give you all the info. Well, I go and I pick somebody, and on the other side of that, and you do give literally one person your thing for free, right? The service, the course, the program, whatever, they do get it for free. That is factual in there, or at least it should be. Companies I've been a part of have done it that way. You then get on a call or engage in a conversation with every other person to let them know they didn't win. And they go from all this, I'm gonna win and it's gonna be cool, to, oh, I didn't win and I'm upset and I'm distraught and this emotional dump just happens. But what can then happen is, but listen, because I really want to help, I'm going to give you this partial scholarship, this discount, this specific offer that makes it cheaper than normal. So you can still get in because I'm on this really big person number mission and you're going to help me get there. Okay. And all of a sudden, I'm pulling you out of this emotional lull, and you're like, oh, okay. So I get a discount. I get to buy something, which humans on the other side of buying things feel good because they bought something. And it's like, all right, yeah, let me buy the thing. I get a discount. It feels good, and I'm in. And does it happen to work 100% of the time? Absolutely not. But does it convert very, very well and generate a lot of leads for a sprint period of time? It absolutely does. So I highly recommend you actually leverage the idea of a scholarship in future episodes. And actually in Empowered, we break down some of the psychological principles and how to apply those like across other areas of your business and marketing. But the scholarship will go ahead and put out a PDF here in the near future once we dive deep into some of those principles, where it'll give you the playbook on how to run that. That said, here's what just happened on the other side. Here's the negative of you getting those leads to calls and etc. Every person that said no for a reason. The scholarship didn't work. And every person that you never even got a hold of saw the scholarship but had no desire to have a conversation with you because of some reason. The next time you do a scholarship, guess who is most likely to get on the phone with you again? The people who have never seen you do a scholarship before. Which means if you started off at 1,000 size audience and you got a good result, in order to have a similar result, you need to wait until you get to 2,000 total audience and get 1,000 new people in before you run it again to get a similar result. What I mean by that is, if it took you 2 years to build your audience to where you're at now, and then you do another scholarship in 2 months, the result is likely not going to be what it was the first time, simply because you've already burned through that audience. They've seen it, they understand it. They didn't say yes the first time, they're not going to say yes the second time. Generally, there are going to be stragglers. There are going to be people that see that email, they didn't get the other one. Maybe you text, maybe you call, whatever the thing might be. But generally speaking, it's not going to continue to work. Now you stack that up and do it every other month for like a year or two. Eventually, it doesn't work at all. And unfortunately, we've seen this happen where that was like the cornerstone of the playbook because people didn't have evergreen marketing strategies in play that would work ongoing. Same thing with a challenge. Hey, we're all going to go focus on this thing that you need. We're going to do a 21-day challenge. Well, guess what? Hey, we're going to drink more water. We're going to get steps. We're going to, whatever the thing is that's likely to create a quick win for somebody, we're going to go do that. You know, if people drink a lot of water and they're used to not drinking a bunch of water, I bet you they're going to feel better in 3 weeks. They might lose a pound or two. Maybe they gain a pound if they're, overly waterlogged and whatnot. Andrew, I'm sure you have some science telling me one way or the other something's going to happen there, but we don't need to get into that now. But let's say we're going to do a step challenge. We're going to do 10,000 steps a day and you don't do 10,000 steps. Guess what happens on the other side of 3 weeks of 10,000 steps a day? If you change nothing else, you'll lose a few pounds. It might just be 2 pounds. It might be minuscule, but that person is going to be pumped because they got a result and they have that emotional high. But now the challenge is ending and their support is ending. But you step in and give them an option to go ahead and sign up to continue the thing with you. So emotional high, bring them down low, pull them back up, keep them going. Here's my offer, here's my discount, here's my thing. And now all of a sudden you go ahead and get new people in. But guess what? Everybody that did the challenge didn't sign up for the thing knows the next time you're doing a challenge is just so you can try to sell them something at the end. So same principle applies. You work on building an audience for 2 years, then run a challenge, and then you don't wait 2 more years to run the next challenge. It's not going to work as well. Maybe the second time it does, but not the fourth, the fifth, the 10th, things like that. Now, the key here is these, and I don't want you to get mixed up, right? Like Andrew and I have talked many times about this stuff. I think the idea of a scholarship, the idea of a challenge, the idea of all those things are very, very good when used appropriately. But if they are the only tool in your toolbox, that is your marketing, you are going to run out of runway really, really quick. Like it becomes so hard to fill on the back end. I mean, maybe you have our automated outbound method and you're just like, Steve, leads are flying in. No problem. All right, cool. I still don't think you should do it frequently. But maybe you can tell me, listen, the amount of leads, the amount of attention is so good, I can run these more frequently. Great. But I would still tell you need evergreen, continual marketing strategies that are working, organic content that's driving conversations, email lists that are actually helping to book calls on top of some of those things you're doing as well.
So, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of stuff that goes into as consumers get sophisticated, as we kind of rotate through the same way that farmers rotate through crops. You can't plant the same thing every season. You occasionally have to turn that stuff over. When would it be appropriate for people to potentially run a scholarship and a framework? And I guess how long before that stuff gets exhausted? The same way that, again, using the farming analogy, before they need to find something new or change what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's really a good question. I'll start off this answer by saying there is no perfect answer, right? Like it's one of those things, but kind of like my point before, if you run a thing, let's call it a conversion event, and that's kind of what I'll get into. And that's when we give everybody our marketing plans, for example, we talk about doing roughly 2 conversion events per quarter. But a conversion event, and I'll expand on that a little bit in a moment, isn't always going to just be that scholarship, right? So the point earlier was if you have an audience of 1,000 and you run a scholarship, you should wait until you get a new 1,000 people to run a scholarship to get the same results. Now, let's say you're in hey, I don't need or want or desire the same result. I'm good with 50% of the result. Okay, cool. So instead of 1,000, you need 500 new people in. And that's going to start to be kind of your first tell of not necessarily when you should run it, but maybe what result you could expect on the other side of running one, based upon what that
Mm.
audience kind of grab and attention growth is starting to look like. My general rule of thumb would be you should probably run a scholarship no more than twice a year. You should probably run a challenge no more than twice a year. It's easy to run New Year's challenges. It's easy to run back to school challenges. It's easy to run holiday challenges. It's easy to run a summer challenge type thing. So I would pick two of those four
Mm-hmm.
seasonally driven challenges, two other times to run a scholarship, and like everything else from a conversion event perspective should be other things. So in Empowered, when we talk and we give, so for context, for those of you not in, every quarter we give you a marketing plan on, or an outline, I should say, on what you should do for your business for the next 90 days. It's editable, it's modular, so that way you can kind of make it your own. But the general idea is to remove some of that initial thought process of what do I do? In there, we'll talk about conversion events and kind of sprint periods, just as a general terminology. And the idea of a sprint period is from a content perspective. Whether you're writing emails, you're doing organic, you're talking to people in the gym, if you're doing paid ads, whatever it might be, you want to put out content that solves specific kind of micro problems and macro problems for potential
Mm-hmm.
clients, and drive everybody eventually to a conversion event. A conversion event might be a 3-day webinar. It might be a single night training. It might be a scholarship or a challenge. It might be some type of, 3-day challenge where you show up and you do things, whatever it might be. But it's ultimately,
Mm-hmm.
hey, show up, engage in this thing on this day, during this week, whatever it is. And that's your main, like, hey, I'm going to pitch the thing that I'm trying to sell. The reason we wait
Mm-hmm.
for a period of time is we want to bring people through that awareness, that problem continuum, so to speak. We spoke about that earlier, but there's those 5 stages that you want to bring people through. Generally speaking, early on in that kind of 6-ish week phase, you got to assume people are generally unaware. All the way through week 4 and 5 is they're very solution product highly aware. And now it's just time to hit them
Mm-hmm.
with the right reason to join. This is where offers, the appropriate stack, the appropriate discount, the appropriate thing comes into play. And that's around kind of the idea of what we teach people. But when you go through that, I would say you want to have somewhere between 6 to 8 conversion events per year where you're really focused on selling the thing, but driving and delivering value throughout those kind of sprint periods, somewhere 6-8 weeks, somewhere in that range. And again, like second to last week of summer is probably not the best time to try to get people to focus on you and what you're trying to sell. So it might extend maybe 8, maybe 10 weeks. Right on Christmas Day, you probably shouldn't host a webinar hoping people are going to show up unless your demographic doesn't necessarily practice Christmas, right? So knowing those things does play a role, but I would first say
Mm-hmm.
there's no wrong or right answer, but make sure it's choreographed. I would suggest again 6 to 8 times a year. And then on the other side of when should I do it, it's probably more important to know the results you can expect. If your audience is growing more slowly, the results are likely to be lower than if your audience is growing more quickly.
So that's a lot to keep up with for people that are new solopreneurs and for people that are looking to get their first paid client. This is probably not a conversation you're really engaged in necessarily. And this is where it becomes the same way that consumers and clients get more sophisticated. Like, the word velocity based training is becoming a little more prevalent. Like we talk about, reps, sets. I'm pretty sure that the majority of people that are going to the gym these days understand some of those basic principles, which means that now coaches have to further understand deeper principles and or wider to make sure that they're continuing to add value, which a value is just a disparity or a discrepancy between what someone currently has and what their perceived outcome or gain is. And so when you think about layering and building value, it's like, well, what are you bringing to the table? How are you potentially helping someone solve that problem? And in this case, we're adding value to people that aren't doing these planning events. inside of what we know to reliably and predictably contribute to you as a coach earning more and increasing your business revenue. So there is something that we're talking about in the future episode, more or less a business health dashboard of when do you look to acquire clients, when do you basically pull back a little bit. Steve, maybe give us a brief snapshot around things that would help people determine what they should focus on as we wrap up this episode and tease the next one.
Yeah, looking at the KPIs or key performance indicators of your business, basically the numbers, the overarching health, has been just a game forever since entrepreneurship, business ownership has been a thing. The way we look at the numbers of the business is, and this doesn't replace financial statements and profit and loss statements, right? Let me
Mm-hmm.
be uber clear. The way we look at it is more of a diagnostic, kind of an operations diagnostic tool, so to speak. And the whole idea is we have all of these numbers that we could look at and probably should look at to an extent, but how do we distill it down to actionable decisions so we confidently know what we need to be working on? That's always the hard part, right? People who are good at marketing and sales, guess what they're always trying to do in their business? Market and sell, but they suck at fulfilling. People who are really, really good, they're the greatest coach technicians in the world, are always trying to program and improve that side of their business because that's what they love. Guess what they're not doing? Marketing and selling. So how do we make sure, listen, non-emotional, very logical, this is the thing we need to focus on. We're going to break that down, but it's the profit per acquisition formula, and it goes into the overall arching business health dashboard, where it allows us now, with the basis of kind of the business planning sessions that we do, on top of the business health, we now start to have a pretty strong indicator of, listen, I'm starting to hit capacity. I'm over capacity. I'm overworked. That risks service delivery. I'm very under capacity and I don't have a lot of leads coming in. Great. We got to focus here. And it really becomes this if this, then that system to allow you to know, I got to wake up and solve this problem today versus waking up and going, I don't know what to do because I'm just not sure why I'm here. And that's a bad spot that most people don't even realize that they're in. And that's one of the biggest killers of these businesses because people just aren't focused. So that's going to be a
Mm-hmm.
long one. I'm going to nerd out on that one. I apologize in advance, guys. Just letting you know. And we're going to talk a lot about numbers, which if you're listening to that one, don't drive, write it on paper, but that's going to be a fun episode too. This is an entire training that we do inside Empowered as well, where we help make sure that our coaches know what they need to be focusing on so they're growing their business ethically and in a way that they can handle it that doesn't take away their freedom.
Yeah, and if you're wondering, that was a lot. I don't know what that how do I know if that's for me or how
It
do I
is
know
for you.
if I have
It's
that
for
problem?
everybody.
The general question that you should ask yourself is what are your clear targets? And if this is the overwhelming majority, again, we just pulled a list recently where we looked at how many people have actually been certified across however many years, and we saw the number somewhere around 5,000 or 6,000 people, just through a specific basic course. And out of that basic course, we saw that the majority of people that started had no idea how much money they wanted to make. The idea was they just wanted to make more. And so if you're in that rat race of, well, I don't know what I'm working towards, I just want more, that is going to be a very, very, very important conversation with you. Or if you're in the conversation of I feel stuck and I don't know how to grow, again, it's a different version of more, but there's something in that where you're thinking, I need more clients. Well, maybe you need to lose less clients. So knowing what levers to pull is where that profit per acquisition number really comes in. And again, ultimately, you're going to want to make sure you stay tuned. I think it's another 3 or 4 episodes down.
If you
So make sure you subscribe and turn on those alerts so that way you know when that one
and
comes
if
up.
you can't quantify by making this change, it will give me this much more profit and take home income, that's when this stuff becomes for you. That's how simple we try to make it at the end of the day. Change this thing, it impacts my profit. That's increased money I get to take home. Step 1, step 2, step 3.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's more to it, but that is literally how simple we try to distill it down.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty crazy when you think about some people are spending $1,500 to make $1,000. That's kind of what we want to alleviate. And so it's really, I think there's a great saying, it's not necessarily how much you make, it's how much you keep. I think there's some truth to that, but also there's an element of like, well, you got to make
Yeah,
something.
you can't
So
keep anything if you don't make it. So you have to make enough to keep some. But now it becomes a game of how much can you keep without driving yourself insane, right? You can have a really big high margin business, drive a lot of leads, a lot of sales, all the things, and just be tired and hate life all the time. That sucks too. So it's just building the right business for you and understanding those components and how they interact. The pros and the cons. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Most people only look at the positive side. Let's make sure we understand the negative side.
that's it. All right, guys. Well, until next time, make sure you smash that subscribe button. Again, turn those alerts on because you don't want to miss that episode as this is coming up. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next
Peace.
one.